Welcome back to the corner of the internet where imagination and reality sit at the same table and refuse to behave. You're watching Turkish series Stars, the place where we read between the frames, pry into the silences, and follow the threads of emotion that the official promos refuse to show. Today isn't just another preview, it's an alarm bell. A storm is rolling toward Netflix with a name that's already echoing through Istanbul: Games of Passion, Tutku Oyunları. Word from set whispers of scenes so charged that the lead can't steady her breath after cut. We're about to open the door on Hazal Subaşı's headspace, the unsettling cunning of the woman embodying Nazlı, and the fractured stillness Erkin Merrick brings to a man slipping into the shadows of himself. If stories that bruise while they mesmerize are your poison, sit down and pour another glass. Before we tear through the layers of this house of mirrors, make sure you're subscribed to Turkish series Stars. If our long-form breakdowns and exclusive peeks keep you curious, that join button opens the velvet rope to our inner circle. Your likes are how we hear you clap. Your comments are the murmurs that steer our next investigation. Now, let's step into a home where every surface gleams and every reflection lies. Promotional interviews are usually velvet and velvet only. Compliments, soft laughs, practiced answers. But every so often, a performer lets something raw fall out, and the rehearsed world flinches. That's what happened when Hazal Subaşı sat down to talk about her role in this high-voltage Netflix drama. Instead of playing it safe, she unloaded a line that turned into a headline, a mantra, a red flag. Speaking about love and betrayal as if they were living organisms, she said, eyes steady and voice low, "Who betrays invites the same fate." Call it an axiom, call it a warning, it's more than a soundbite. It's a worldview. In one breath, she suggested that infidelity isn't only a wound you inflict, it's a crack that runs back into the one who started it, a circle that comes to claim its architect. Then she went further. In a moment that felt unscripted and dangerously honest, Hazal admitted that the specter of being deceived haunts her beyond the set lights. In real life, she said, if she ever felt the ground give way under her like that, the version of herself standing there would be gone, and whatever came after would not be able to pretend nothing changed. It could be a friend. It could be a partner. It would still be over. The room, we're told, went still. Not because people don't say these things, but because she meant it. For the Turkish series Stars community, this confession isn't gossip to pass around, it's a key. Because in Games of Passion, Hazal doesn't just play Funda, she seems to pour into her. Funda is a luminous painter, a woman who makes beauty with her hands while her private world starts to shake on its axis. She's composed for everyone else, a spine for her family. Inside, though, the structure creaks. She senses the atmosphere changing around Ilker, but naming it would make it real, and sometimes it's easier to live with a dread that's nameless than with a truth that can't be taken back. Hazal's admission, that she moves quickly when the shadow of betrayal approaches, mirrors Funda's fear-struck refusal to stare it straight in the eye. This isn't performance in the shallow sense, it's channeling, a current jolting straight from life into fiction. Crew members talk about days when the cameras cut and nobody moves because Hazal can't. After scenes where Funda has to swallow the unthinkable, Hazal reportedly steps away, hands shaking, tears falling in a silence the team knows not to touch. This isn't a stunt. It's not a publicity trick. It's what happens when the feelings in the script find a doorway into something personal and storm through it. The set has started to carry this charge in its air, a heaviness that you don't see on the call sheet but that breathes into every take. Every tragedy needs its geometry. Here, it's a triangle sharper than glass. There's Funda, building worlds of color to keep from looking at the spreading crack. There's Ilker, played by Erkin Merrick with a calm that masks a tremor only he can hear. And there's Nazlı, the powder keg dressed as a helper. On paper she's a nanny, the oldest trope in the book. But Games of Passion rejects clichés the way a body rejects a foreign object. Nazlı walks in like an answer to the household's practical needs and becomes a solution to problems nobody admits aloud. She strokes the weak points, listens for the fears, tightens the screws. The woman wearing Nazli's skin is said to conjure her with a chilled precision, vulnerable in the right places, starving for validation, allergic to boundaries, and more than willing to rewrite the truth in front of your eyes if it means she gets to hold the pen. What people on set are murmuring about isn't just her effectiveness, it's the way the energy turns when she is fully in it. There are reports that between takes, she walks herself down, loosening Nazli's grip with a few minutes of quiet, like she's prying a cold hand off her throat. The manipulation she threads into the room as Nazli is so concentrated that even seasoned crew sometimes forget to breathe. When she and Hazal face each other across a scene, the air feels crowded with unsaid things. It translates straight to camera. Now, let's talk about the man wedged between two tidal forces. İlker is not easy to forgive, and the story doesn't ask you to. But Erkan Merrick refuses to paint him with just one color. From the outside, he's the kind of man people project calm onto, thoughtful, restrained, inventive. Inside, he's a clenched fist. Words fail him at crucial moments, and the pressure of all that unspoken feeling looks for an exit, finding one in the ugliest place. Erkan has dug into the character's backstory, resisting the urge to reduce everything to appetite. He shows a person built from old fractures, someone who responds to Nazli not just because she tempts, but because she sees the damage and calls it by its real name. Desire is the symptom, not the disease. Director Mert Baykal is said to be unrelenting in his pursuit of honesty from the cast. With Erkan, he pushes for smaller choices that feel like private discoveries. There are rumors of takes that left Erkan raw, alone at the edge of the set, not ready to rejoin the world for a moment. It's the kind of work that costs. And when work costs, the camera pays attention. Pause with me, Turkish series stars family. Do you believe Hazal's rule, that the person who breaks trust becomes the first casualty of their own crime? Is that a real psychological boomerang, or an elegant comfort for the hurt? And what about the woman inside Nazli? Are you ready to see an actress stand in that storm again, risk the label that clings to those who play the interloper too well? Tell me what you think about fidelity, about casting, about how much of yourself an actor should sacrifice to tell the truth. Your thoughts feed this conversation. Now to the skin of the show, its spaces. Games of Passion is produced by PD Yapım with Netflix backing, and you can feel the money and the intent in every corner of the frame. The set design behaves like a fourth character, mapping the characters' minds and things and light. Funda's studio took days to construct, it doesn't just hang art, it breathes with it. The canvases echo her mood swings, her palette choices swing between gentle and violent, and the room is arranged to keep secrets scattered at the edges. Nazli's quarters, by contrast, are stripped down and cold, a waiting room for a soul that never gets called in. Look closely at the lighting in İlker's office and the living room. Chiaroscuro lines cut faces in half, carving out the double lives they're leading without a single line of dialogue. Every hallway has a whisper if you know how to listen. Of course, with two names like Hazal Subaşı and Erkan Merrick sharing orbit again in a project built on Tinder, the tabloids are eating well. Headlines have tried to conjure rivalry between Hazal and the actress embodying Nazli. The answer from the production? A flat no. What exists is professionalism with temperature control, not chilly, not cozy, measured. And strangely, that distance works. Funda and Nazli aren't buddies, they're combatants in a quiet war. The lack of off-camera intimacy preserves the on-camera electricity. When Hazal's eyes load with suspicion and Nazli's fracture with guilt or defiance, nothing in their real lives is softening the glare. Why all this noise? Because Games of Passion refuses to be a simple, cheating husband tale. It's building a house with many rooms, psychological control, unequal power dynamics, class friction between employer and domestic worker, the kind of violence that leaves no bruise but hollow eyes, the rituals of obsession that feel like love until they are exposed to the light. Netflix is reportedly leaning into the dark psychological drama label, less soap, more scalpel, aiming squarely at an international audience hungry for Turkish stories that don't flinch. With the worldwide appetite for content from Istanbul surging, this one has the markings of an export. And there's a twist coil running through the narrative that fans of puzzlebox storytelling will relish. As the season peels back Nazlia's history, hidden chords appear tying her to both Funda and Ilker in ways that will force each of them to relive old nights, old choices, old wounds. Every episode clicks another lock, only to reveal another door behind it. People around the production call it a trap you walk into willingly. As for when it hits our screens, Netflix is playing coy. Some insiders murmur about a stealth drop, a surprise that sets timelines on fire. Others caution that the global scheduling grid might push things later than fans want to hear. What seems certain is that Post is a laboratory right now. Colorists are shaping a palette that sinks under your skin. The score creeps in, not dominating, but unsettling the edges of scenes. Light becomes motive, shadows become dialogue. The polish is meticulous. Make no mistake, this is a trial by flame for Hazal and Erkan. A project like this doesn't just pad a resume, it stamps a name onto a moment. If they land it, they carve a new corridor in their careers, one that leads deeper into roles that don't let you go. If they miss, well, this industry never forgets. But from everything we're hearing, they're not missing. They're burning. And that thought has all dropped. The one about betrayal coming home to roost will likely float in your head long after the credits roll. Because the show keeps asking, without ever sermonizing, when a marriage collapses under secrets, who pays most? The one kept in the dark, or the one forced to live under a lie they told? If the cheater splits themselves in two, can either half find its way back into the same skin? We'll keep watching the shadows around this series like hawks. The minute a trailer lands, or a release date sneaks out, Turkish series stars will be there first with a frame-by-frame dissection. If this descent into the darker rooms of love and art hooked you, press like, it tells the algorithm we're doing something right. Subscribe to Turkish series stars and ring that bell so you don't miss what we uncover next. And if you want to keep this kind of independent, in-depth storytelling alive, that join button is your ticket into the booth where we plan the next deep dive. Until we meet again, remember this simple, bitter truth: the story keeps whispering, in this game of desire, nobody really wins, only those strong enough to endure walk away.